Following Gaylord Brewer, it's a tough act. It's a tough act. So I'm going to do my best here. I have no idea what to read, and I'm a mess. I've just been thinking about that all day, and I've been working on this novel, and I don't want to read that yet. So, well, I guess what I thought I might start with is because Trina didn't really give us much of an introduction, I thought I would read about the author at the end of my book. So, if it's called About the Author, but if we could also call it On the Identity Formation of Prevost. So it kind of introduces myself a little bit. So thanks for listening. And also, I do a lot of name dropping and stuff here because I think that's one of the ways to make it as a writer is to it's not so much what you read or write, but it's who you know and stuff. So on the identity formation of Prevost, or about the author. Chad Prevost was born in Marin General Hospital in Fairfax, California, and divided his childhood between there and Chicago, Morgantown, Phoenix, and Richmond. Prevost is the offspring of Mr. Mississippi College, 1968, and the Queen of the Forest Beauty Pageant, 1967. In other words, genetics alone might have suggested Prevost was destined for success as an all-around, personable, high-achieving, handsome young man. His parents both graduated. It's true. It's not funny. His parents both graduated from high school and college with perfect GPAs. You can imagine. During the 70s in California, when it was the style to wear one's hair slightly longish, Prevost's father looked a bit like Tom Selleck of Magnum P.I. It helped that Prevost's father was also named Tom. Over the years, however, Prevost's father's hair receded until the center of his father's hairline was a squiggle resembling a question mark. Nevertheless, with a beauty pageant winner mother and a father that resembled Tom Selleck other than a receding hairline, Prevost felt certain he would grow from a cute kid into a handsome man. In fact, as Prevost grew tall and lean and his blonde hair lightened in the summer sun, someone mentioned that he resembled Val Kilmer, who played Iceman in Top Gun. He was also told that he looked like Ricky Schroeder from Silver Spoons, and also the brother of Rob Lowe, Chad Lowe, who starred in his own sitcom for a brief stint, Spencer. Prevost especially liked the idea that he looked like Chad Lowe since they shared the same first name. Can you hear me? These glory days, however, were all but a mere brief stint on the radar of Prevost's life just before puberty arrived. Before he knew it, Prevost far more resembled Goose, played by Anthony Edwards, than Val Kilmer. Prevost had yet to come to terms with a feature he inherited from his father, a feature he had long overlooked, and a feature that really kept his father from resembling Tom Selleck beyond the mere receding hairline. That feature was a weak chin. Prevost inherited his father's jawline, which was barely a line at all. Prevost had the misfortune of inheriting his mother's long neck and missing out on her strong chin. Whereas a long neck is graceful on a woman, it tends to produce chicken-like necks in men whose Adam's apples stick out almost like a second nose. Prevost was also slow in developing the substantial facial hair of his father. One of Prevost's issues related to the shade of the hair itself. Whereas the hair on his chin was a dark brown, the hair on his upper lip was a light blonde, virtually undetectable unless one got up very close. When he was 21 and serving as youth minister at Williams Trace Baptist Church in Sugar Land, Texas, Prevost had enough of his mustache's fairness and decided to darken it. By darkening the blonde hairs, Prevost believed, am I distorting here? I'm sorry, Prevost believed he would finally achieve that Tom Selleck-like handsomeness, possibly appearing more genetically distinguished and even a bit biblical. 2 treatments of Just for Men hair dye didn't do much. So Prevost treated it again and again until he believed it evenly matched the color of his eyebrows. Prevost actually went around like this with an almost black mustache at the age of 21 for a week before he had second thoughts and just shaved the whole thing off. As Prevost grew older and finally did put on a little weight, his neck merged with his chin. Occasionally, a student would try to ingratiate herself with Prevost by noting that Prevost did seem to have an uncanny resemblance to Owen Wilson. Prevost liked Wilson and believed him to be as cool as the characters he played on the silver screen, but did think privately that he had a better nose than Wilson's crooked one. Someone else had noted that, I don't know how I can get through this anymore, but someone else had noted that Prevost resembled Owen's older brother, Luke Wilson, who had darker hair, and although Prevost didn't initially see it, still wanting to believe his brownish hair was blonde, Prevost came to believe he did resemble the elder Wilson. After decades of denial about just how weak his chin was, Prevost finally decided that the best way to overcome the physical deficiency was to grow a goatee which would give his chin more substance and hide the merging line between his chin and neck. This backfired on Prevost as he came to resemble the skinny, chinless, hairline receding Canadian comic Tom Green. To this day, whenever Prevost dares to grow any facial hair, people stop him on the streets, in hallways, at bars, and ask if he, Tom Green, will sign their autograph, and they won't take no for an answer. And that's just a little bit about me, and I just wanted to introduce myself a little bit that way. I really have no idea what to read. Tough audience. I'm just kidding. I've written a couple of Rick Jackson homages, but I will not try one tonight. So just if you want to buy the book, you can find it, but they're old and stuff like that. And I read one last night. So Where My Love Goes was actually written under the influence of Jackson. And then there is one that I've never read before, and I don't feel like going counterintuitive tonight, but there is Adam's Blessing, and it says after Rick Jackson. So you can check that out sometime. But I did notice that he's written like at least 4 biblical monologues, and he only published one of them, I think, in Resonance. So, if he's weaning down his very own monologues, then who am I to try to read one after him? And, So I am really, let's see, you know what? I am going to go counterintuitive. I'm going to read one I've never read before. Well, really? Are y'all ready for something new? It's okay. Once I remember right before Meacham, I was like wondering, should I read this or should I read one other? And Joe McCormick, y'all remember Joe? You know, he was sitting next to me, and I said, Joe, I don't know which one to read. Which one should I read? And he kind of checked him out, and he's like, that one. And I was like, why? He said, the other one's not as integrated. And I wasn't sure what he meant, but I trusted him. So I still, years later, have never read this one until now, and you can judge me for it being not integrated. But here we go. And it is philosophically titled, What is Today? Out the window, exhaust spills to the sky. Plumes of cars spinning their wheels. Yesterday was not so different. Tomorrow, I'll write my name across the Marlboro billboard in flaming calligraphy. People will look up and follow the smoke. They'll see my name in flame against a razor blue sky. No sooner will it turn to ash than I'll cast myself from the highway's bridge into the Chickamauga Dam. I'll be water skiing away by the time the Coast Guard arrives. They'll call me the alleged eco-terrorist, accuse me of reading Adbusters. This was written during the Bush administration. This is a little context. This felt different than... Amber Alerts will pitch my license plate across the interstate as the man who kidnapped himself. I'll taxi all the way to Trump's Manhattan Tower. Maybe I won't have to hold a gun to Trump's head to persuade him to fly me to Rhode Island. Oh, the view is fantastic today atop the country's cultural mecca. We have to use the high beams to see through the smog, which confuses the pigeons who don't know whether it's day or night. They careen between the blades. The engine sputters. We crash in a wheat field somewhere in what must be rural New Jersey. Swampland, but I can hear the wave of mass transit. Fighter jets blaze overhead. By the time they trace the smoke, I'm hitching a ride with Sharifa. She wears a Taco Bell uniform. You don't know who I am? I ask. I don't watch much TV, she says. Take me to the border, I say. Ha ha, she says. I tell her I'm serious. Today's her lucky day. We're wheeling into the arms of love, into tomorrow's fantasy of how it all used to be. We stop in Cleveland for a shake, rob a liquor store in Kansas City. We steal the show in Branson, Missouri, where magically she gets herself spliced in two. Even as they cast my name in red letters on the Bijou Theater placard, I complete my disappearing act. Grow a mustache, apply self-tanning lotion, volunteer to help build the wall from Baja to El Paso. I change my name to Homero, work with other illegals, building the wall from Mexico. But before I know it, they'll clean up my mess. The media needs a new story. Shark attacks help hapless beachgoers. Another cafe in the Middle East blown to pieces. Trump's new apprentice designs an LA golf course. An insider blows the whistle on the FDA. The FBI hunts down the whistleblower. They need to build another wall. Tomorrow will have a striking resemblance to today. That one didn't work. I feel like it didn't work as that. There were things that were funny and that y'all were just kind of like looking at me like, when is this going to be over? So, all right, you tried some things and, let's see. Let's go serious here because that's what I'm sensing. I'm going with feeling like going a little more that way. And so here's the two warning and let's see. Let's go with for some reason over the past few months, I know it's kind of weird, but I've gone with the paranormal. I've been really interested in it, fascinated by the paranormal and just the possibility of it. And I actually went on a ghost hunting expedition. I admit it, right here in front of everybody. And that was interesting. You can ask me about it later. But years ago, I wrote this poem called "A Frequency for Wherever You Are," and I didn't even realize how sort of like paranormal it kind of was. I was just trying to think about reality, and anyway, so to go along with to follow up with Gaylord and thinking about ghosts and stuff like that, a frequency for wherever you are. Right now, you may be anywhere, but let's just say your feet are planted on a floor that once was a forest floor. Right now, not far below you, someone is breaking a stick into a fire. Someone is calling for their lost love. Someone is etching a name in stone. None of you are aware of this space's real estate, of the nothing that is and is not. In this very moment, let's just say you're trying for some silence, maybe hearing only the hiss of cars whizzing through rain, yet even as you read, calls only dogs and deer can hear whistle out of your ear's range, and songs you'll never hear leap in electrostatic ecstasy, ready at any given moment to be sucked into a radio's wire and exhaled through an anonymous speaker. Right now, wherever you are, numinous spirits parade about as if you aren't even where you are, as if you aren't even real. If only you could catch the wind of their frequency, hear something concrete about the difficulty of love or a meaning of life you've missed, then you too might be moved mesmerized by what you know, not believing you could have lived any other way. So let's see. As a last poem, going with the idea of other realities, I thought I would read a poem that was inspired from a Rick Jackson workshop that he asked me to fill in for, and he gave the students like 10 things you had to include in the poem, and we workshopped it. It was like a year ago-ish, and I even read it to the class. They gave me some thoughts, and this is what came out. It's called White Feathered Bodies, and happens to be actually the title of a chapbook collection that'll be coming out in a few months here. White Feathered Bodies. And this is the last poem. Thanks for listening. Tonight, sipping Dickel across the street from Pilgrim's Pride Chicken Processing Plant, I think how solitary, poor, brutish, and short life is, as Hobbes wrote in Leviathan. I feel like believing all over again in the sad and instructive stories they raised me on in the cracker smell Sunday school classroom. A truck full of white feathered bodies groans to a halt, and the hens rest in their cages one more glorious night. In the ER across town, even as we speak, a man sleeps on a steel table under the mercy of the anesthetist's cocktail, with no idea everything he will ever see has already disappeared into his mind. All he did was slip and hit an oak knot. His chainsaw bounced up tricky and burred a line across his eyes. Whenever you walk the long halls of East Erlanger, you need a story that is not sad and instructive. The dying know the body all too well already. Sometimes they look to you in something like awe. Sometimes their bodies glow as their hearts flatline and you can feel them looking down upon you. Last night, the wheelchair-bound man with the glazed eyes woke to find he can move his head and slightly lift his shoulders. How can you imagine the way it would feel to wake one morning and never know the miracle is how much you will lose today? Then to learn he'd been beating his wife and his landlord shot him in the neck. A truck pulls out of Pilgrim's Pride in the dusk light. The cages empty of the white feathered bodies. Somewhere this evening, someone laughs, full of an unconscious joy of the world's particular scriptures breathed into bliss. You believe it's what this drowsy bar needs on the south side beneath the carniceria with the smell of cumin, chorizo, and jalapenos rising from the rafters, side by side with the souls who refuse to leave the abandoned slaughterhouse next door. You might say we all get what we deserve, but how can anyone really know? Can you believe it was the Persian Zoroastrians who offered the early Hebrews a way out of their belief in Sheol, where all spirits vaguely roamed? A life moves towards virtue or vice, as Aristotle said. But where does the life go? Consider the end of Noah, his hungover curse upon the youngest son, Canaan. Not even the one who covered him up or saw the old patriarch in his nakedness. Tamar's rape, Solomon's despair, even with 700 wives in his holy of holies. Absalom, caught between the heavens and earth, his hair tangled in an oak. Everything crashes back. Tonight, Homero and Moises, lit up with Cuervo, snap their pool cues with a directed energy. They swagger, whistle, show a few gold teeth. Romero even buys you a drink and gives you his best advice. You can't throw pearls before swine. And a saying, the one who holds the leg of the cow is as guilty as the one who chops off the head. What they're looking for isn't something sad and instructive. They just want you to show them the unadulterated joy of the initiated who've crossed over and returned. They want you to give them something they refuse to believe, while every day all around them is only what they see, hear, smell, taste, or fear. Everything else is just a privilege for higher castes. In joints like these, no one admits they believe in ghosts, but everyone lives on the fumes of tragedies. Cassandra swears she found a well beneath some loose basement boards where she was in a kitchen when the sink filled with blood, a hand forcing her head down. She screamed. Then the blood, the hand, disappeared. Lucia is a psychic. She says the well smells like the woman's head still floats in the invisible water. Sometimes everyone hears screaming. Lucia says the woman refuses to cross over. The woman tells Lucia when they found her head, the mob thought Sam Carpenter, her black boyfriend, murdered her. They pitch-capped him, boiling tar to the head and down the torso, flays the skin when removed. The feathers thrown almost as an afterthought, like rice at a wedding couple running the gauntlet to their honeymoon getaway car. They rode him out bound to a rail, his genitalia beaten on the iron, his screams drowned in the hysterical jubilee. Thank you.
Thank you very much.